Almost 12 months after the UK finally left the EU, the pros and cons are hardly discussed. The negative consequences are obvious. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson wanted to usher in an amazing moment of hope and a new era of friendly cooperation between the EU and Great Britain when his country left. Or let's better say he said so. With the trade pact reached at the last minute between London and Brussels on Christmas Eve 2020, the worst Brexit consequences could be mitigated. But almost a year after the end of the transition phase, the outcome of the UK's exit from the EU looks anything but good. Hardly any promises made by those in favour of Brexit have been fulfilled. Instead, problems arise everywhere, and the relationship with their neighbours on the continent keeps reaching, let's say, new lows. Brexit, it seems, has become the elephant in the room, the obvious cause of various difficulties, but nobody in Great Britain wants to name them. The resignation of Brexit Minister David Frost a few days ago is therefore also interpreted as an admission of failure. Immigration was one of the, let's say, most prominent issues in the pre-Brexit referendum campaign. One wants to regain control over one's own borders, so the slogan of the Brexiteers. The fact is, more migrants are now illegally entering the UK via the English Channel than ever before. This year, there were around 26,000 by the beginning of December alone, more than 3 times as many as in the whole of 2020. They can hardly be sent back because Great Britain is no longer part of the corresponding agreement after the completion of Brexit at the turn of last year. The boat accident with 27 deaths in the English Channel at the end of November highlighted the crisis. The government reacted by tightening asylum legislation and plans to evade the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights. Stricter immigration rules also prevent urgently needed skilled workers, such as truck drivers, for example, from entering the country. Food and fuel shortages that kept Britain under control over the summer have been dismissed by the government as a global problem, but they were nowhere else as strong as there. However, there were no queues at the petrol station and sometimes completely empty shelves in the supermarket like there is. You wouldn't have found this in other European countries. The ongoing controversial issue of Northern Ireland is putting a strain on relations with Brussels and with Dublin and even Washington. London wants to overturn or at least drastically weaken the arrangement that was laboriously negotiated in the Brexit agreement, which gives Northern Ireland a special status. At times there was even talk of a trade war because of this, and it's not ruled out yet anyway. Shortly before Christmas, the British adopted a somewhat softer tone and showed themselves to be more pragmatic. It was unclear whether this would last. Foreign Minister Liz Truss, now in charge of the relationship with the EU, stressed that the position had not changed and again threatened to override parts of the so-called Northern Ireland Protocol. Well, in any case, trust in Prime Minister Johnson's government seems to have been at a low point in Brussels for some time anyway. With its aggressive and confrontational demeanour, the Johnson government has done a lot in recent months to largely use up its trust credit in Brussels and the EU capitals, said an EU diplomat to the German press agency. An opinion with which he's definitely not alone. Brexit badly damaged the relationship between neighbours France and Great Britain. There was, for example, the months of tussling about fishing licenses that were not granted to French fishermen, and also allegations from London that Paris was not taking control on its coast precisely enough to prevent migrants from travelling. In the Élysée Palace, there is already resentment about the submarine deal between France and Australia, which has been overturned by the USA and Great Britain. And here in Germany, in Berlin too, the faxes from London are thick, it seems. The then EU Minister of State Michael Roth from the Social Democrats made this more than clear at his last appearance in Brussels before the change of government. The dear friends in London and Great Britain should now come to their senses, he said about the dispute over the Northern Ireland Protocol. They want to damn well work together in a spirit of partnership and friendship, he said. To do this, it is necessary that they do not always have to argue about what they have actually agreed to meet. Well, on average, the UK is just as divided about EU membership as it was at the time of Brexit referendum in 2016, at least until recently, but I come to this tonight. Around half of Britons were in favor of the return to the European Union, and almost as many do not want to hear about it. It is clearer, however, when the question is whether, in retrospect, the exit was a mistake. And that's what I definitely will not spoiler now. I will talk about this in my 6 p.m. video today. But the whole thing is astonishing because none of the opposition party really questions Brexit, says British expert John Curtis from the University of Strathclyde in Glasgow in Scotland. The people on both sides of the dispute are still convinced of their original view. It's still there that this debate could flare up again, said the scientist recently in a podcast by the think tank What UK Thinks. In fact, the British opposition parties are largely avoiding the issue of Brexit. They were too annoyed after the last parliamentary election, when Johnson achieved a massive election victory with the slogan, "Get Brexit done." Yeah, now you see what you got done. Opposition leader Keir Starmer from the Labour Party therefore announced that there would be no campaigns for re-entry into the EU. Instead, they want to ensure that Brexit works. He likes hopeless causes, obviously. How this should work is not yet clear in detail, and it's impossible so. The legal scholar Holger Hestermeyer from London's King's College recommends first restoring the relationship of trust. A solution requires goodwill, trust, and new ways of exchange, says Hestermeyer in an interview with the German press agency. And he says, the former are increasingly lacking. This makes it all the more urgent to work on new forms of cooperation. And as I said about the Brexit mood at the moment, I'll talk in my video tonight at 6 p.m. I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.